condolences to the family. This is very, very tough. I got up this morning and I thought, Pat, I need you. I couldn't get my tie straight and couldn't get the top button. It was the same old stuff. That's the way it started. And, Pat was there for everyone, for every need they ever had. Pat Summerall was there. There's a saying that the criterion for greatness and being the best in what you do or ever done is, can the history of what you did be written without mentioning your name? Think of that. Think of how many histories could be written without mentioning Pat Summerall. History of college football, history of pro football, NFL on television. For 22 years we were together, and Pat many years before that. And there were voices before Pat Summerall's, and there'll be voices after. But he is the voice of the NFL. I think of tennis, the U.S. Open. Think of golf, the Masters. How could those histories be written without Pat Summerall? Think of CBS Sports. You even think of Murder, She Wrote. How could any of those be written without Pat Summerall? Fox Sports. That was what he did. But if there was ever a book written about good guys, he'd be the star of that book. Because that's what Pat was. Pat was generally card-carrying, great guy. And he showed it all the time. And not just to special people. He was as nice to, the person that's the big boss or the sponsor or whatever, to he was a runner. And he did things for these people that you don't know that he did, because that was Pat Summerall. Pat Summerall wasn't a braggart, but to me, he was John Wayne. He was the toughest, quietest guy I've ever known. And on TV, he was Walter Cronkite, because you just felt the comfort being there with him and standing next to him for 22 years. I felt that great comfort. And I saw all the things that he did for people. And you could just feel how special he was. Now, I got the first feeling even before I started. The first year I worked full-time with Pat was in 1981. In 1979 was my first year in television. And I just gotten out of coaching. I didn't know anything about television. I didn't know where the hell you go. I had never been in a booth. I didn't know, you put the headset on, you put the mic in front or the back of your head. I didn't know those things. And so I signed a one-year contract to do 4 or 5 games. And one of the games, it could have been my second or third game, was with Pat. And, sometimes you think, of all the places you don't belong, this is a place I didn't belong. I wasn't ready for this. Tom Brookshire, his great partner, had a family wedding that weekend, and he was off. So they put me with Pat. And Pat treated me so well. And the biggest thing, he treated me with respect. And, I didn't know when we were at commercial. I didn't know when we were on the air. I didn't know anything. But he didn't look down. And he didn't look down at me. He didn't, grab my arm and say, I'll pull you through this, I'll help you. Pat didn't do that. He didn't have to tell you he was going to help you. He didn't have to tell you he was going to pull you through. He just damn did it. And I remember after that game, it was just one game, and I thought, I don't know what's going to happen to me. Hell, it may have been my third game, and I didn't know if I'd ever do another game or ever do another game with Pat. But I came away from there with one thought: this guy is really a good guy. Good guy. And I thought, if I get nothing else out of this, I got that. And then 2 years later, we started working together, and we worked together for 22 years. 22 great years, never had an argument, never had a fight. Was always happy to see him. Every story ended with a smile or a laugh. The thing that I miss most about being out of television, being with Pat, is Thanksgiving. And we had 22 straight Thanksgivings. Now, most people talk about Thanksgiving and they say, it's family. How is it being away from your family? And we said for years, and they weren't idle words, this is our family. I know Pat's up there now saying, John, brevity, brevity, brevity. I told you, I know Pat. I know there's a clock, Jack said, but let me get through this. Sorry, one more time, I'm gonna talk over you. I'm gonna do those things. Like I said, I started out thinking, couldn't get my tie. Pat used to always straighten my tie and my shirt and stuff. But anyway, so we had this Thanksgiving, and it was 22 years of Thanksgivings, 22 years of family. We would say, this is our family. Pat and I are family. Bob Stenner, family. Sandy Grossman, Lance Barrow, Richie Zions. For 22 years, that was our family. And that's as real as you can get. I mean, that's not talk. Those aren't words. When you spend that type of time with someone under those situations, you are family. Just one more thing that when Willie Yarborough, my driver, was a good friend of Pat, is here today. And Willie used to sing gospel songs. And Willie was singing What a Friend We Have in Jesus. And so, I was telling Pat, Willie's pretty good. He's in his church choir and he's singing What a Friend We Have in Jesus. So the next day I come out there, it's a Sunday morning. I used to, get there like 10 minutes before we left on the bus. Pat would get there an hour and a half before and just hang out and just tell stories and drink coffee and read the paper and be with the driver. So I go there one morning and Willie and Pat are singing What a Friend We Have in Jesus. And they're talking about Willie didn't know the words. Willie had been bluffing all these years on the words, and Pat was telling him what the words were. So Willie kept saying, I know what it is. I know what the words are. I know you don't know what. So anyway, to make a long story short, Pat went home, got a hymn book, and sent it to Willie. So the next time they sang on the bus, What a Friend We Have in Jesus, they had the hymn book. But that was Pat. I mean, how many guys would do that? That was Pat, and I'm gonna get that, Pat. I'm finished, but I just want to say that, well, I had the first goodbye with Pat was at CBS. And we were together at CBS, and we lost football. And then we had, our last telecast, which was tough. We said goodbye because we didn't know what was going to happen. Then we both went to Fox. And we were all those years at Fox. Then we had our last broadcast at Fox was Super Bowl 36, and our last goodbye. This is the third goodbye. It's the toughest. Goodbye, Pat. Rest in peace. I love you.